And then the other thing, Bob, and my understanding is that you won an Emmy for this interview, is that to my knowledge, you were not only the last person to interview Jerry Sandusky, you may be the only person to have interviewed in any in-depth fashion Jerry Sandusky. So I would just be curious. He was sentenced yesterday. The world has sort of seen this story come and go. Your reaction to it now as again, maybe the one person who has had the opportunity to ask him a lot of questions.
You know, as I've said before, although I did have that opportunity to do the interview, and I did it based on the facts as we understood them at that time, I'm not an expert on the legal system, or I'm a psychologist who specializes in this particular kind of case, so I'm not going to pretend to expertise, but I think it's obvious that the evidence against him was overwhelming. His claim is that there was some widely orchestrated conspiracy led by an accuser who isn't credible. Well, maybe he could make a case if there was one accuser, but there were multiple accusers, and it's just not credible to believe that they would all orchestrate their stories or all be so craven or dishonest as to do this to destroy someone for no good reason. So I think, it was obvious that night when I spoke with him on NBC that I was talking to a guilty man. I think most of America concluded that. And then the legal system ran its course, and they reached the same conclusion. And according to legal experts, his grounds for appeal are very, very weak. So I think that Jerry Sandusky is going to spend the rest of his life in jail, and there seems little doubt that that's a just verdict.
And then maybe in a bigger picture way, Bob, there were some people who looked at the entirety of the Penn State situation and suggested that this was an indication that we have lost our way, that sports have become just too significant, and that was the reason why all this was ultimately allowed to happen, and if there was indeed a cover-up here, if that's the right way to put it, that's the reason for it. And others have looked at it and said, well, he was just one very sick man involved in some horrific things. Do you tend to lean on one or the other side of that debate?
I'm still sorting through it all, and considering the Freeh report a second time, that obviously is what Louis Freeh concluded. Not only that there was negligence or that the opportunity to stop him was missed, that signs were missed, but that key people, including Joe Paterno, knew the basic facts and knowingly covered up just to maintain the image of the football program. That is Freeh's conclusion. I believe that increasingly you will find credible people willing to challenge that. Not to challenge the idea that opportunities were missed and that there was negligence and that it was certainly far from Joe Paterno's finest hour. Everyone concedes that. But the idea that there was a knowing conspiracy, that Paterno and Schultz and Curley and Spanier understood the full dimensions of Sandusky's behavior and just didn't care how many kids they put in peril just as long as they protected the image of the football program, that essentially is Freeh's conclusion. It was not Joe Posnanski's conclusion in his biography of Joe Paterno. It is not everyone's conclusion who has read the Freeh report. Many people, while saying that Freeh has the basic facts correct, believe that Freeh has assigned a motivation to all these people just based on an inference of his own without any hard evidence to prove it. And I think that the Freeh report is going to be challenged at some point in the near future. Obviously, Schultz and Curley are going to go on trial. Spanier has already made some public statements. Joe Paterno is gone and can't defend himself. But in the trials upcoming, I believe that an alternative version of events will be presented, and then the public will have to judge how credible Freeh's conclusions were.
The best of Mike and Mike.
All right, we made the announcement earlier this morning, and Golick is all excited in honor of college.